Spinks wanted out of Vitality, and there's probably no better replacement for Spinks than a player who's seen as one of the best lurkers in Tier 1 CS. They've signed the superstar that is ROPZ. I'm Astronaut CS, let's talk about it. There are a few changes that Vitality will need to make within their positions and roles on the CT sides mostly, as Spinks played in more rotator spots and ROPZ is more of an anchor in comparison. So we'll probably see, in theory, Flamesy move into the rotator spots that have been left and ROPZ to take the anchor positions. When considering the year that Flames had though, it might be confusing to some, but when you look at his playstyle, Flamesy is this hyperactive kind of player that wants to get into engagements and take map control on both T and the CT side. But as he is limited to playing anchor spots on some maps, his aggression is much more limited on CT sides, disallowing Apex to maybe use him more effectively, even though he still had a 1.18 rating across the CT sides in the last 3 months, though a large chunk of that is the perfect World Shanghai Major. When you look through Vitality's CT side win percentages though, on a few maps it is much lower than you'd probably be happy with, so this change could aid in making their CT side a lot stronger. So in theory, this is just a bigger firepower upgrade for 2 positions, and it potentially allows Apex more options on the CT side. Also, the fragging trio now becomes Zybu, Flamesy and ROPZ, which just sounds way more deadlier, and in theory should allow Vitality to be in more of a contention for titles in the upcoming year. For the names on this roster previously, only taking a winner's trophy at IEM Cologne last year, although it is a big tournament, it's just not enough, and this organisation wants to be the #1 team in the world, or at least fighting for it consistently, which this team was just not doing enough last year, at least in the second season of the year, as they only attended the one final. So the reason this signing could aid them is because we know ROPZ is a player that has so much composure, especially when we consider the big games in the arena, which Vitality seemed to have struggled with last year. The big games are where he can really come alive, and this also might aid some of the players to not feel as much pressure on their own performances, as they will have more confidence in this rock that is ROPZ. So for the players struggling with that, they could rely more on those around them, which could also aid them in not choking on the big stages. Plus, he seemed to be vital last year for FaZe to compete. If he didn't, they didn't seem to stand a chance, which happened during the middle of last year. So it'll be very interesting to see how they play, and thus these early tournaments are going to be very intriguing to see how the likes of this Vitality roster shape up earlier on in the season. My worries though with ROPZ are whether he adapts to Apex's style as an IGL. We know how well he worked under Carrigan's style on 2 different rosters in Mal's and FaZe, but it'll be interesting to see if he can adapt to the flamboyancy of Apex's IGL style. They both call relatively similarly, I think, but it's more the personality differences which we see differ from the 2 IGLs, so I hope that won't be something that will affect ROPZ negatively, so we can see him continue to play at a superstar level. Also, this last year was one of ROPZ's worst years in recent times, and although life in CS2 was good for ROPZ initially, it really did plateau for a large part of 2024, so we can only hope he continues this form he regained towards the end of last year, especially in Shanghai, so that this roster becomes an absolute fragging machine. But when looking at the top tier 1 teams, this now is the one I believe that has the most exciting roster, and has to be title contenders at every tournament they play in. The players on this lineup have such strong qualities, and the X Factor, or should I call it Z Factor, should bring them multiple titles this year, you'd ought to think. And they should be in the talk for the team of the season, and definitely the team of the year. The only question mark people will have about this team is with Mezzy. But I think the team does need a balance, and not just superstars all the way through the lineup, especially when these are very vocal and outspoken personalities throughout the roster, so maybe his personality is another factor as to keep him in too. But maybe that's the inner Brit in me coming out and being hopeful to see him lift more tier 1 trophies this year. The first tournament, being the Blast Bounty, will have a lot of eyes on it to see how they shape up. Their performance maybe not as important, but more so to see if they pass that eye test that in theory this team should have now. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this roster. Do you think they win any S tier tournaments this season? Do you think they can win the Austin Major in June? I'm excited to see. Thank you for watching.